I'm a daughter raised by a single father. As your future mother in law, I assure everyone that I will properly discipline her from now on. Please be at ease. Who on earth is telling us to be at ease? The big moment of my life, every woman's dream? During the wedding, a major event, the crazy mother in law Mary suddenly grabs the microphone looking self satisfied. Both the guests and I are appalled. Your beloved son sitting next to me is so embarrassed he's about to cry. Mary, what are you thinking? Are you out of your mind? My name is Amy, a 32-year-old office worker. I met Potter, who's 2 years younger, on a dating app. After dating for 2 years, we decided to get married. We first went to my dad, who cried tears of joy. I naively thought Potter's parents would react the same, but that expectation was quickly dashed. No way, I don't approve. Someone you met through such an obscure method and moreover from a single parent? I won't accept it. I was taken aback by the uniquely outrageous Mary. Contrary to her father-in-law, Thomas said,
"Hey, that's rude. Sorry, Amy. I still can't let go of my child. Please, take good care of Potter."
I had heard Mary was a bit overprotective, but this was beyond my expectations. She's like a monster. Potter is an only child, and Mary and Thomas married late. Mary was 42 when Potter was born. Nowadays, meeting through a dating app is not unusual, but it seems they have a strong impression that no good people come from online meetings. Furthermore, they seem to really dislike the fact that I was raised by a single parent. Children of divorced parents have higher divorce rates. I don't want Potter to go through that sadness. What an absurd claim. I thought, where did she get that information? But it was clear Mary cared deeply for Potter. As she continued her high-handed attitude, I couldn't help but give a wry smile.
Enough already. You don't know anything about Amy. Her mom didn't divorce. She passed away in an accident.
Reacting to Peter's words, Mary said, "Oh, is that so? But still," she seemed about to complain when Thomas finally lost his temper.
"Potter is already 30 years old. Isn't it time you let go?"
Mary didn't seem fully convinced, but somehow we managed to get their blessings for our marriage. That's when my days of hell began. After the family meeting, I moved in with Potter. Mary's demeanoring attitude was overwhelming even during that meeting. My parents, unlike Mary and Thomas, married early. I was born when Dad was just 20. Mary seemed bothered by this too. "Leonard, having Amy at 20, you must have been quite the character in your youth," she said.
Thomas, exasperated by her words, said, "What an impolite thing to say. Leonard, I apologize for Mary. We are relieved and happy that someone as responsible and lovely as Amy has chosen Potter."
And he said something that made me happy. Mary may have thrown rude words, but Dad had been earnestly working hard since graduating high school, even after Mom passed away.
"I'll never love anyone more than Effie,"
he would always say, continually cherishing Mom. I felt nothing but disgust for Mary, who judged Dad solely based on his age and appearance. Dad just laughed it off, but he reached out after the meeting.
"Mary is quite unique. But are you okay, Amy?"
He worried. I had some concerns, but I wasn't living with Mary, so I thought I could manage. The first morning living together arrived. My phone rang at 4 a.m. What? An alarm? A call? Yes? I answered grudgingly. "What's with that pitiful voice? Isn't it time for morning chores?" "Mary?" I was wide awake from the shock. "Morning chores? Does Potter always wake up this early?" Annoyed by my questions, she snapped, "Not his, yours." Confused by her response, I stayed silent as Mary began spouting nonsense. Apparently, a wife must wake up earlier than her husband, clean the house, prepare a warm meal, get dressed, and wake him up. That was the morning rule.
Losing my mom at a young age, I momentarily wondered, really? But I quickly came to my senses.
Anyway, if you want to marry Potter, this is just basic, understand?
Snorting in excitement, Mary said, what era are you living in? I can't do all that every morning. I have work too. Potter said he's fine with a light breakfast and I'll try to do the cleaning on my days off without overexerting myself. I apologized briefly and went back to sleep. I felt a bit rude, but Mary calling early in the morning with her bizarre rules was pretty rude too, so I figured we were even as I drifted back to sleep. Unsurprisingly, I overslept because of the weird wake-up call. That's what I've been saying, I'm fine, just stop it already. Potter seemed quite angry on the phone. Apparently, Mary, unable to bear that I didn't answer her call, phoned Potter and ended up getting scolded by him. Potter apologized to me profusely. Potter is on my side. Everything will be okay. That alone reassured me. After that day, I didn't hear from Mary again. I heard later that Potter had talked to Thomas, and Mary got a serious talking too. Though I thought Mary was odd, I was too busy to deal with her. The reason was the wedding preparations. Wedding ceremonies are fun to watch, but being on the organizing side was overwhelming with so many decisions to make. I wanted to decide everything with Potter, but then he said, I'm fine with anything. The bride is the star of the wedding, right? I'm just a supporting role, so I want the wedding to be how Amy wishes. He said it like he had made a great point, which made me furious. Huh? A supporting role? What do you mean? Is it my wedding alone? My frustration exploded and I burst into tears. Seeing me cry, Potter looked panicked. No, that's not what I meant. I'll work hard on the wedding preparations too. Let's make it a wonderful ceremony. And he said after that, Potter made sure to attend every wedding meeting with me on his days off. Though we had been drifting apart recently, we started laughing together again like before. Then came the day I was most looking forward to, choosing the wedding attire. I still haven't forgiven what happened that day. I was shocked when I arrived because Thomas and Mary, whom I hadn't seen in a while, were there. It's been a long time. Why are you here today? Unable to hide my confusion, my smile turned strained.
Why? When I talked to Peter yesterday, he said it was the dress selection day today. I came to see Potter looking handsome, Mary said in her usual domineering manner. I felt slightly dizzy at her words, and there was Potter, not looking the least bit sorry. Needless to say, the rest of the dress selection was not fun at all for me. Inside the dressing room, Mary was being overly enthusiastic. This one is nice too. Potter looks good in everything. Let's try that one next.
Even the planner, Eleanor, seemed strained by the unexpected participation of Thomas and Mary. I have never seen a mom so involved in her son's outfit selection. Quite a mother-in-law you have there. Are you okay? She whispered to me, leaving me feeling embarrassed. Nevertheless, I refocused and chose a dress. Among the many options, I picked my dream mermaid-style dress. I had always admired its beautiful line since attending a friend's wedding. I had been dieting and even gave up my favorite chocolate attending the gym and spa just to fit into this dress. Trying it on, Eleanor commented, "Wow, you look beautiful. It suits you so well." Her words filled me with joy for all my hard work. Thomas nearby added, "Amy's tall and slender figure makes the dress look even more stunning." Hearing this, Mary approached and said,
"Oh no, what a vulgar dress. It's showing off your body too much. Are you trying to attract men's attention or what?"
Her command was incredibly rude. "Not at all. This is a popular dress and suits her very well." Eleanor quickly intervened, but Mary was not listening.
"At our wedding, my brothers will be there too. Do you want to make a fool of me with such an indecent daughter-in-law? That's why I didn't want this marriage in the first place." After all the days off I took for the appointments, after all the dieting, my dream dress was being called vulgar? Am I really becoming part of this family? This is impossible, right? My pent-up anger exploded. Enough. Why does our wedding have to be according to your wishes? What do you want me to wear? Something like your Robert-like outfit and huge shoulder pads?
Mary's face turned red at my words. Eventually, Potter and Thomas intervened in our argument. You're unbelievable. Apologize to Amy. She looks great. Your comments are what's questionable. Thomas scolded. He apologized to me and then dragged Mary away. Despite that was also Amy's fault, right? I agree with Mom this time. I also have doubts about that dress. Choose something more modest. Potter said. I was deeply hurt by his words. I had always told Potter I wanted to wear a mermaid dress and he had agreed, but now, doubting whether I should continue with the marriage, I decided, I'm going back to my parents' house for a while. I'm not sure if we should get married like this. Potter was silent for a moment before saying, my feelings haven't changed. Despite his words, I went back home. Dad, I'm sorry. The wedding might be off. To this, Dad simply replied, I see, and asked no further questions. I felt deeply sorry that Dad had been looking forward to seeing me as a bride. Alone with my thoughts, I began to reminisce about the fun times Potter and I had shared over the past 2 years. We had met on a dating app, introduced by a friend, and at one point I even believed it was destiny. Our family-only wedding was next month, invitations already sent, and my cousins had expressed their excitement. Eleanor had been a great help, and the thought of it all being for nothing just made me sigh. A few days later, after work, Potter asked me to meet him at a cafe. To my surprise, Thomas and Mary were there, and urged by Thomas, Mary apologized to me. I was wrong last time. Thomas scolded me. I let my anger get the best of me. Mary seemed genuinely downcast. I have had time to think alone, and I still want to marry Amy. I'll make her happy. I watched the in-laws apologizing before responding. Understood, I answered with just that. I wanted to stay at my parents' home until the wedding, a wish Potter readily accepted. On the wedding day, a day I will never forget, Mary was in high spirits in the dressing room. What a lovely dress. It's more elegant than the previous one. I was right in my choice, she remarked. I had given up on the mermaid dress for one chosen by Mary. Not at all to my taste. Eleanor repeatedly asked, the previous dress suited you so well? Are you sure about this one? And she repeatedly spoke to me. Honestly, I didn't care anymore about the wedding. The family-only wedding proceeded smoothly until near the end when Mary stood up and grabbed a microphone. Thank you all for being here for Potter's sake, she began, to Potter sitting next to me. What? I haven't heard anything about this. As I tilted my head, Potter seemed to be in the same boat, shaking his head. Mary continued, Amy being raised by a single father will be disciplined by me, her mother-in-law, to learn the wife's rules. Rest assured, everyone. What did she just say? Mary looked pleased with herself while Potter seemed embarrassed to tears. The audience was silent, perhaps thinking Mary was joking. A wife wakes up earlier than her husband to clean the house, prepare breakfast, and must always be well-groomed. At night, she cleans again and goes to bed after her husband. She proudly recounted the same things she had told me on the phone before. The guests showed visible disgust, and even Potter's relatives had strange expression. This is absurd. I watched Mary's one-woman show, wondering if this was her idea of revenge. It was utterly pointless. At this moment, Thomas, sitting next to Mary, interjected, Is that all you wanted to say? What? Mary seemed surprised that Thomas joined the conversation. I'm speaking now, be quiet, she snapped. No, I've had enough. Do you even have the right to lecture others? You used to be diligent with chores when Potter was home. But what about now? Thomas revealed that since Potter left, Mary had been neglecting household chores and he was doing most of them now. I couldn't believe how audaciously Mary had behaved towards guests. Thomas's revelation prompted laughter from some guests. Then Dad stood up. Is my daughter Amy being sent to prison or something? She can't live in such a house. Don't insult my precious daughter. Dad's words brought tears of happiness to my eyes. There were quiet claps around the room. Mary, with her face red and receiving cold stares, looked around in dismay. Amy, say something. Amy, isn't this situation awkward enough? Despite his mom creating the situation, Potter pathetically relied on me, so I stood up with the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm canceling the wedding here and now. We will return your gifts immediately. The room buzzed with murmurs, some clapping. Potter looked shocked.
Mary, too, was surprised by my decision. As you can see, I'm not liked by Mary. The dress I'm wearing was chosen by her. The dress I really wanted to wear was deemed vulgar and indecent by her, and I can't follow her nonsensical rules, so I'm calling off this marriage. This declaration was met with applause from my relatives. Hey, what are you deciding on your own? I'm allowing this marriage. A son's wife should just listen to her mother-in-law. Thomas scolded her. Shut up now. Amidst the chaos, a relative from Potter's side spoke up. You, be quiet. Weren't you the one who was tormented by your mother-in-law in your first marriage and cried back to your parents' house? How can you do the same? Apparently, Mary had been divorced once and suffered greatly at the hands of her mother-in-law in her first marriage. Despite such an experience, what a dreadful person. Mary fell silent at this revelation.
Huh? You're really canceling the wedding? I'll sue you for breaking up the engagement.
Potter glared at me fiercely from beside me. But I wasn't scared at all. Huh? You dare say that while I was at my parents' house, you already engaged brought a woman you met on a dating app to our home. I can't marry someone as despicable as you. Potter's face paled. Well, he stammered. Everyone, Potter just said he would sue me for breaking off our engagement despite him cheating during our engagement. I know everything, so go ahead and sue. How dare you say such a thing? Screw you. My revelation caused an uproar at the wedding venue with condemnation pouring in towards Potter. During my time at my parents' house, my friend Nettie contacted me. Is this your fiancé, Amy? The photo was unmistakably Potter, and it was from a dating app, where he appeared to be seeking a new relationship. I had deleted the app soon after meeting Potter, but he apparently hadn't. Perhaps he had been deceiving me all along. I hired a private investigator who found that Potter was bringing women to our home while I was away. They were nice. He claimed to be working late, but now I wondered... What a mockery. I went through with the wedding only because of a call from Eleanor. Potter's mom contacted me, wanting to read a letter at the wedding in secret. I immediately sensed that spiteful Mary was plotting something. No wonder she was in such a good mood. I simply used her scheme against her and returned it doubled. However, I felt sorry for the guests. I thought I might have gone too far, but seeing their faces of despair was satisfying. It was really good that we hadn't married yet. The guests were outraged, calling Potter the worst and unbelievable. My relatives, you better off not being part of that family, they said. Potter's relatives were in turmoil, thinking it served them right. Then Mary's brother John approached me. I braced for a scolding, but instead, I'm truly sorry for my foolish family. We will take responsibility. He apologized. Afterwards, Potter and Mary received a scolding from Thomas and other relatives. Potter paid for the entire cost of the wedding. Even though it was a small ceremony, the amount was significant. Despite being engaged, I demanded compensation from Potter for his infidelity. He audaciously protested this, but after being reprimanded by Thomas and other relatives, he reluctantly ended up paying. While Potter and Mary were the worst, the rest of their family were good people, and I was grateful. Potter had to beg his parents for money as his savings weren't enough. Thomas, exploding with long-held anger, said, I don't care, sort it out yourselves, and left a divorce paper before leaving the house. Thomas later contacted Dad and me to apologize. He is now enjoying peaceful retirement out of state. Potter's situation worsened when one of his flings turned out to be a married woman, creating trouble at his workplace and resulting in his dismissal. He's now struggling to find work and depends on Mary's pension for a modest living. It's nothing but poetic justice. He reaped what he sowed. Years later, a friend introduced me to someone and I remarried. I finally wore my dream mermaid dress at my second wedding. When moving out of state for my husband's job made me sad, Dad said, Amy, make sure you're happy this time. I assured him with a smile, of course.
Sarah is my name. Tom, my husband, and I have been married for 2 years. I had hoped to start a family by now, but we have yet to be blessed with children. I enjoy my job and it gives me a sense of purpose in life, though, so I'm not in a hurry to have children, but it's different for Tom. Tom recently expressed his disappointment at me in not yet having children. How soon will you be expecting a child? Please, for God's sake, hurry up. My mother is excited about it. I went to the hospital, but nothing was wrong with me. If you insist, let's have you checked out as well. You're implying that I'm the reason you can't have children? It can't be my fault. How do you know? There are a lot of families whose men are the cause. There's no way I'm the reason for this problem. Don't bring it up again. Then, since neither of us is infertile, consider it a gift and let's take our time and wait a little longer. Why are you being so easy on yourself? My mother needs to see her grandchild as soon as possible. Tom is pressured by his mother every time he sees her. Is my grandchild here yet? He is still refusing to go to the hospital to be examined, which is causing problems. And for some reason, he's convinced he's not infertile. I was so concerned, I went for another checkup, but there was nothing specific that needed to be treated. Tom didn't seem to understand that we only have one chance to have a child each month, and kept asking me if we could have a child yet. I was tired of him asking me, "Are you ready for a baby yet?" Mom told me the same thing today. She said she wished she could see the face of her grandchildren as soon as possible. Again? Please hurry up. Mom is looking forward to it. There's no way to hurry up. Even when we're having a normal conversation, we always end up having the same conversation. And then we start fighting. We have had fewer and fewer conversations as a couple over time. Perhaps it was because we didn't talk much, but we had a lot of problems like this. Mom is on her way over. What? Right now? What does it matter? If she's coming, please let me know ahead of time so I can prepare. You're talking a lot. She has a message for you. Is it about kids again? This is enough for me. I don't mind. I'm not sure. That's what I'm told every time I see her. It's your fault we can't have children, so please, explain it to her. My mother-in-law entered the room as we were having this conversation. I'm sorry to have bothered you, and here you have it. My mother-in-law then came in and handed me something. What is this? You can see for yourself. They're a belly band and a lucky charm. What is the purpose of a belly band? It's critical to keep your stomach cool when trying to conceive, so make use of it. It's too hot to be wearing a fuzzy belly band in the summer. That's the wrong attitude to have. This room is too cold because of the air conditioning. It chills your stomach. Sorry. And how do you use this amulet? It's a lucky charm from a well-known temple for children. After praying there, I heard that a celebrity had a baby. It appeared to bring good luck, so I drove all the way there yesterday, despite the distance. You didn't have to go that far. Don't be so concerned, just because you're so laid back. I'm looking forward to seeing my grandchildren. As I previously said, I went to the hospital and it was not me. I explained it again to my mother-in-law, but no matter how many times I told her, she didn't get the message. Tom was sitting a good distance away from us, pretending as if it was none of his business. Why don't you get pregnant then? I'm not sure why you're asking. Why don't you try another hospital for another checkup? Why not seek treatment at a more specialized hospital? I'll see what I can do to find you a better one. You don't have to do that. I'm positive it's not Tom, so I can only think it's because of you. Tom has not yet been examined. How are you so certain he is not infertile? Because... Tom, who was supposedly not listening, abruptly cut the conversation short. Mom, don't say unnecessary things, he advised. Sorry. My mother-in-law abruptly stopped speaking after that. I'm sure a package will be delivered by courier tomorrow, so please receive it. I just wanted to get this to you today, so I'm leaving. My mother-in-law then left me with only a belly wrap and a charm to protect the child. The following day, when the package arrived, I laughed. Inside were all the good luck charms I needed to have a child. Your mother sent a package to me. What was inside? Pomegranates, herring, roe, and peaches. What made her send those? All three are considered lucky foods and are said to bring good fortune to have children. I see. Mom must be desperate to see her grandchildren. I understand her emotions, but it's a bit much. Why are you talking that way about Mom? She is genuinely excited about the birth of her grandchild. Don't you think you're under pressure as well? Yes, but it's not my concern. It's none of my business. It has nothing to do with me. What do you mean it has nothing to do with you? It's between us because we're a couple. It's your fault you are unable to have children, so no, it is none of my business. It's all my fault that I can't get pregnant. But I've been to the hospital and they say nothing is wrong with me. So why don't you go to another hospital and get a thorough examination like my mom suggested? Why don't you ask her to help you find a good hospital? The hospital where I went was a well-known fertility clinic. Perhaps it's just well-known. It could be a charlatan. If you're going to say that, why don't we ask your mom to find one? Finally, you're willing to go through with it. Yes, if you will get checked out as well. Why should I go to the hospital? I couldn't figure out why Tom was so sure of himself. Then I was told something I didn't know before. I've never told you anything, but you've been suspecting me for a long time, and I'm tired of hiding it, so I will tell you. What is that? This is actually my second marriage. What? What exactly do you mean? I was so surprised that I sounded stupid in my reply. I divorced 2 years ago before I got married to you. How come you didn't tell me? Well, I got divorced because my partner cheated on me. She didn't ask for child support or anything, and so I didn't think it was necessary to tell you. Do you mean to imply that you have children? A son, yes. I've never seen him since he was born following the divorce. I'm confused. I can't follow what you said. That shows that I'm not incapable of having children. That's why you were so certain that you weren't? I'm offended that you believe it's because of me. But it's not impossible that you became infertile during the 2 years following your divorce. You still want to point the finger at others. You are the problem, so admit it and take action. I am not referring to admitting or not admitting. You're starting to irritate me. Thus, in my second year of marriage, I discovered for the first time that Tom was divorced and had a child. Even after hearing that story, I wasn't totally convinced that I was to blame for my inability to have children. I decided to learn more about Tom. I'll tell him I want a divorce after I finish my research. I couldn't stay with Tom any longer. I tried my hardest not to talk to Tom because he was always saying hurtful things to me. Of course, we would never have conjugal relations under such circumstances, so I could never get pregnant. My mother-in-law, who was unaware of the situation, continued to pressure me. Tom then approached me one day. He looked irritated. By now, I'm used to being treated with disdain. He opened his mouth. I am currently thinking about a divorce. I don't like spending time with you because we don't talk anymore and all we do is fight. And we can't have children no matter how long I wait. I was taken aback by his abrupt statement, but I responded calmly. What? That's fine. What? Tom was perplexed by my response for some reason. He must have expected me to say I don't want a divorce. Here are the divorce papers. I've already completed all of the required fields. What? Why is it already completed? I filled them out so that I could divorce you whenever I wanted. Do you want to get a divorce? Yes. I was only half kidding. I'm not looking for a joke. Do you really want a divorce? You said it yourself. I didn't expect it to end this way. Did you expect me to sob and say I didn't want a divorce? Yes. We don't talk much anymore, so I thought this would be a good time to talk things through and make amends. So why didn't you just say that from the beginning? I want things to return to how they were. That's impossible. I'll divorce you right now if that's what you want. That is something I do not want you to do. I'm not sure what you meant when you told me you wanted a divorce. Tom continued to complain, despite the fact that he had told me he wanted a divorce. Despite the futility of the situation, our discussions continued. Then my mother-in-law arrived in good timing. What's going on all of a sudden? I went out with some friends and brought you some souvenirs. Souvenirs? She presented me with another amulet. I went to a different childbirth shrine, so I brought you back a souvenir. I've been praying there, and I'm confident it will bring you good fortune this time. We don't need this anymore. My mother-in-law's face lit up at these words. She looked to have misinterpreted something. I had a feeling things were about to get complicated again. Well, whatever. Does this imply that you no longer require it? What? Finally, I suppose it's because of all my efforts. I'm so relieved. It is partly correct. We have to go again to pray our appreciation. My mother-in-law stood in front of me, a happy expression on her face. Tom stood next to me, his eyes downcast, saying nothing. I was anticipating how dissatisfied my mother-in-law would be with my next words. What exactly is it? Don't be so bold as to tell me what I think you're going to say. We've decided to divorce. What? Divorce? Yes. I assumed you were expecting a child. What do you mean that you're divorcing? We were just discussing it. Was this a sudden decision? Not at all. I've been considering it for quite some time. Are you going to flee because you can't have children? That is not the reason I am divorcing him. But that's okay. If you are incapable of getting pregnant, it's better for him to divorce you and marry a second woman. It will be a third marriage, not a second marriage. You knew that? I found out about it the other day. His ex-wife became pregnant shortly after they divorced. Okay. So I can only conclude that you were the culprit. If you leave, I will be relieved. I see. Tom has always been popular with the girls. He'll soon find a partner. Hopefully, our next meeting will result in a pregnancy. So if you've already made up your mind, get divorced as soon as possible. I'm leaving. You two discuss the rest. My mother-in-law then left. She walked away without knowing the truth. We carried on our conversation. Let's file the divorce papers right away so we can be divorced. I want to have children soon, and now I realize I dislike spending time with you. Let's go ahead and get divorced. Then quickly write it. I handed him the papers to complete his part. All I needed to do was turn them in. Tom, by the way, you will have to leave the house when we divorce. What? Why? I'm making mortgage payments. Have you forgotten? My parents paid off the loan and bought this house all at once. You were simply repaying my parents' loan. I was? So you're leaving because of this? I believe we had quite a bit of money saved up. I don't have any money saved up. But didn't you say you had approximately 10 million? That is the money I saved when I was single. As a result, it is not included in the property division. As a result, neither the house nor the money will be mine. That's correct. Well, it doesn't matter. You're taking a new path. Yes. In addition, I'm going to sue you and your mother for emotional distress. What? Why? For so long, you've treated me like a defective human being, saying horrible things to me. It's the truth. Do you really believe I'm the reason I couldn't conceive? It's self-evident. I have a biological child. I told Tom, who had no idea what was going on, everything. It appears that your child from your ex-wife is not yours. What nonsense are you talking about? I was curious about Tom's partner after learning that his marriage to me was not his first, so I searched his house for clues. Soon after, I discovered a picture. Tom is the type of person who keeps old memories rather than discarding them, and I discovered a few memories in the back of a drawer in his work desk. I looked up her name on social media. Fortunately, I got a hit right away. I quickly discovered what kind of person Tom's ex-wife was. Isn't this your ex-wife? I showed him the screen from SNS. Tom looked surprised. It was no surprise. Is the child in this picture your child? Tom was perplexed. I went on with my story. This child clearly has a foreign face. I was looking at your ex-wife's SNS and her husband is from another country. I'm not familiar with him. It seems that they're living abroad. I divorced my ex-wife without much debate because she cheated on me. But before the divorce, she got pregnant and claimed it's our child. I'm pretty sure it was his child. Really. In any case, you have no biological children. Is it possible that I am the reason you are unable to have children? That, I believe, is most likely the case. I did go to another hospital and my body was fine. I'm also going to get checked out. Will you drop the divorce and go through treatment with me if I'm the reason you haven't been able to conceive? Why would I do that? I've already completed the divorce paperwork. I'll simply file them tomorrow. Don't say that. I still like you. You don't like being around me, do you? If you're so popular, you'll find someone new soon, as your mother predicted. Let's talk about it again. I'm going to file for divorce tomorrow, and I'd like you to pack your belongings and leave this week. Oh, no. Didn't you say you wanted a divorce? I'll consult with my attorney about alimony. You'll have a message later. I filed for divorce the next day. We had become strangers. Tom packed his belongings and reluctantly left the house to his parents' place. Tom seems not to have informed his mother that he may have been the reason he is unable to have children. His mother has been nagging him to remarry as soon as possible after the divorce because she wants to see her grandchildren. If he does marry again, I pity his next wife. His mother will undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on that next person for not being able to have children. Since my divorce, I've been working harder than ever at the job I like. I sold the house I shared with Tom. Fortunately, I was able to sell it for a high price, so I repaid my parents the money I had set aside, as well as the alimony I received from Tom and his mother. I'm living in an apartment. I am dating my coworker, who was originally a good friend of mine at work and was listening to me talk about my divorce. And now we're living together in an apartment. If I could marry this man, I hope that we would be blessed with children, and that I'll be happy next time.
What's the deal here? This place is filthy. You're obviously using your illness as a way to slack off on housework. You know how much I like things clean. Normally, you should come home even from the hospital to clean and greet your husband. The man I call my husband is likely not human. He must be a devil or something. Otherwise, how could he say such absurd things to his wife who is in the hospital for cancer? But what this clueless man doesn't know is that he is about to hear. I'm sorry, but your wife just passed away. These words are merely the prologue to the hell that awaits him. A message from the doctor. My name is Bella, a 32-year-old office worker. I've been married to my husband Ronald for almost 2 years, introduced by a mutual friend. I wish I could say we have a smooth marital life, but that's far from true. Work is fulfilling, and I'm genuinely happy when my efforts are recognized. The job is going well, but these issues within the household? When I came home tired from work, Ronald, who gets home before me, is the one to greet me. As I change into loungewear, I ask, "Is a ready-made dinner okay?" Ronald sighs. Oh, you're cutting corners just because you work. Look at this. He shows me a picture of a lavish dinner spread. By the way, he's shown it to me countless times before. This all began when Ronald attended his high school reunion about a year ago. He changed little by little after coming back, influenced by something. He showed me a picture of trendy rooms saying, "I want to unify the furniture color and make the room look like this." Apparently, he went to a friend's lavish high-rise apartment after the reunion and started envying his friend's lifeless, chic room. However, that friend is a young and successful businessman. We don't make enough to maintain a lifestyle on par with his. Next, he suggests moving to an apartment that would cost 3 times our current rent. So, how are we going to pay for that? Ronald replies to my incredulous face, "You're good at budgeting, Bella. We're both working, so we'll figure it out, right?" I finally lost it with my husband, who just chuckled dismissively. Listen, enough is enough. I don't know if you're aiming for a luxurious lifestyle or what, but have you ever heard of living within your means? You talk about managing the household budget, but what about the money for the beer you're drinking right now? From now on, pay for it from your own pocket money. I glared at him sternly. He seemed frightened and sad. Wow, calm down. I was just making a light comment. It's a buzzkill when you can't even take a joke. He muttered under his breath, but I knew he was absolutely serious. Our fights increased, and I started experiencing stomach pain more frequently. At first, I thought it was just stress, but then something alarming happened to my body. Unexplained bleeding that wouldn't stop. I went to a nearby hospital and was diagnosed with uterine cancer. I shivered involuntarily, even though it wasn't cold. The doctor then asked me, "Do you plan on having children in the future?" I was in such a bad condition that preserving my uterus was unlikely. Removal was the best option. I'll discuss it with my husband. I couldn't stop the tears as I drove home. Losing my uterus meant I could never have children again. How will Ronald react? He loves kids. What if he leaves me? When I got home, my husband and I had a long, heartfelt discussion about the diagnosis, treatment, and how he felt about it all. He was deeply shocked, but we made a decision. I took a leave of absence from work and began my treatment. Ultimately, we chose to proceed with a hysterectomy followed by chemotherapy. On the day of the surgery, my husband took time off work to accompany me to the hospital. Even though I wouldn't be home for a while, he seemed oddly cheerful, which struck me as strange. After enduring an 8-hour major surgery, I lost my uterus. The doctor explained that I was at the lowest stage of the disease. During my hospital stay, co-workers and friends came to visit. When a friend with a child came, my heart ached with guilt. Walt and Amelia, my father-in-law and mother-in-law who lived nearby, also visited. Amelia followed her words of sympathy with, "We understand it's hard for you, Bella, but going forward, please manage the household and finances well." Walt immediately intervened. "Not now, Amelia. Bella, don't worry about it." I didn't understand their intentions at the time. As for my husband, Ronald, every time he came to visit, he was oddly upbeat. "You're going to be surprised when you get out, Bella. Just look forward to it." I had thought there might be a surprise waiting for me based on what my husband said. But honestly, I was just happy that he visited me in the hospital. After a while, I got a temporary discharge from the hospital. I was thrilled to return home after so long, but I realized I would have to be readmitted soon for chemotherapy. My husband picked me up and said, "Don't be shocked when you see the house, okay?" A feeling of unease washed over me. What? What is this? The moment I walked in, I was stunned. Our home had undergone a complete transformation. What used to be a light, airy space with white tones was now dark and chic, filled with black furniture. My favorite sofa, table, and even the rug were gone. In their place were pieces that catered entirely to my husband's taste. Even the appliances were new and black, as if coordinated to match everything else. When I froze in shock, my husband gleefully said, "Cool, right? I did this all by myself. Oh, we can exchange the wallpaper back when we leave, so that'll be an extra expense." I felt like collapsing. I suddenly remembered something and rushed to the bathroom. I rushed to our bedroom, only to find it completely altered too. "Where is my dresser?" Caught off guard, my husband stumbled for words. Sorry, I got carried away and, threw it away." I exploded in anger. "Threw it away? Are you kidding me? I've told you how important that dresser is to me, Ronald. Bring it back right now." Every shout intensified the pain from my surgeries. Ronald paused before blurting out, "Well, what's thrown away is thrown away. Deal with it. So annoying." Then he stormed out. Alone, in this unfamiliar space, I sank to the floor. I couldn't hold back the tears. That dresser was a cherished gift from my mom when I first moved out for my job. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school, and I'd lived with my mom ever since. She passed away in a car accident not long after I got married. That dresser was irreplaceable to me, and I had told Ronald many times. Whether he understood or simply forgot, the fact remained that I had lost something dear to me. Between my hospital stays, life became a living nightmare. I had been looking forward to coming home, but my husband continued to be in a bad mood. He barely spoke to me, and when he did, he'd say, "You're home all day. At least do some housework. Look at this dust. Are you really okay with this? It's embarrassing for a woman." "I can't. I'm in a recovery phase and need to rest," I responded. "How about you do some things for yourself for once? You only clean what's visible, Ronald. You could at least clean the drain or the toilet sometimes." From the next day, my husband started to be passive-aggressive. He would deliberately avoid washing my clothes, and when he bought food, he'd eat it in front of me, flaunting it. Tired of his childish behavior, I relied on friends for groceries. On the day of my readmission, my husband didn't accompany me. I went to the hospital alone. The chemotherapy was more grueling than I had imagined. The nausea was one thing, but seeing my carefully maintained hair fall out was deeply unsettling. And my husband? Shortly after my admission, he left for an extended business trip. I thought he might call to check on me, but he never did. One day, my mobile phone started ringing repeatedly. By this point, I had no energy to talk to my husband. Just as I was hesitating to pick up, he called the hospital. Switching the call to speaker, I heard him yell, "What the hell is this? The house is a mess. You're obviously just using your illness as an excuse to avoid housework. I like a clean house. You should be welcoming me home by cleaning."
Even the nurse who handed me the phone looked distressed. To my surprise, it wasn't me who responded to my husband's ridiculous words.
"Unfortunately, your wife has just..." "What?" "She just finished her discharge briefing and is about to handle some paperwork. Could you please not disrupt her with your nonsense?"
My husband's flustered voice came through the phone.
"If you'd been listening, who do you think you are? You could just clean yourself. I've been a doctor for many years, and I've never met someone as unreasonable as you. You're annoying."
The attending doctor promptly hung up. The doctor quickly composed himself.
"I apologize for my outburst. I have a daughter, and I got emotional."
"Don't worry about it. Thank you, doctor. I plan on divorcing him anyway, so it's no big deal." Upon hearing my response, the doctor smiled, clearly relieved.
"Well, that's good to hear."
After getting discharged from the hospital, I headed straight to a particular place. Not long after, my husband Ronald burst into the room. His face flushed.
"Bella, why are you here?"
Seeing me, he didn't offer a word of concern. He just stood there frozen. "It's Bella's discharge day, so we came to pick her up. Now sit down, Ronald." Amelia, sitting beside me, said coldly. It looked like Ronald was hiding something. He blinked rapidly, visibly shaken. "Don't you think you owe Bella and us an apology?" Amelia said, but Ronald remained silent.
"Ronald, you asked us for financial help, claiming that Bella was overspending. Isn't that all a lie?"
Walt's furious voice echoed throughout the room. Ronald had been lying, and it was a pretty nasty lie at that. During my second hospital stay, Walt and Amelia had told me something. "Bella, we know it's not the best time, but we're not exactly flush with cash either. We hope this will be the last time we have to lend you money," Amelia said with a concerned expression. What are you talking about?" We looked at each other and realized for the first time that Ronald had been lying outrageously. It turned out Ronald had been getting financial help from Walt and Amelia, claiming that my overspending was straining our budget. Feeling emboldened, he'd approached them for money several times. "If it's hard for you to say, I can talk to Bella about it," Amelia had offered, but Ronald had flatly refused. Naturally, his story was pure fabrication. Even Walt and Amelia had grown suspicious of Ronald, who kept asking for money while I was hospitalized. Then he apparently pleaded for help again, claiming my hospital bills were astronomical. Upon hearing this, I instantly knew where the money was going. I said to Walt and Amelia, "Once you step into our home, you'll quickly see what Ronald spent the money on." I handed them the house key. As expected, Walt and Amelia came back to the hospital room with astonished looks on their face. "What's up with that room? How much did it cost to change it like that?" I didn't hold back when I told them that Ronald had acted on his own without consulting me. I explained about the terrible treatment I received during my temporary discharge from the hospital, and said I had no intention of continuing our married life, and was planning to divorce him. The most frustrating part was that he threw away the dresser my mom had bought for me. I'm not coming back. Amelia grabbed my hand. Her eyes filled with tears. "The dresser? He threw away the dresser from your mom? Ronald will pay for this." Amelia became very emotional. In fact, Amelia and I had an awkward start. But during a visit to her family home, I had admired a beautiful chest. "It's lovely," I commented. Amelia beamed. "Actually, this chest was passed down from my grandmother to Mom, and from Mom to me." When I told her about my cherished dresser, she responded, "That's so wonderful. Keep it close. I don't have a daughter, so if you want, this chest is yours." I was really happy when she told me that. I have no intention of continuing as a couple with Ronald. Think about it. If the roles were reversed, I'd want to slap you right now. Ronald, now yelling, responded,
Divorce is extreme. You should be grateful. I made that room stylish.
I have to live in a room that's not even to my taste. I shot back. It's way too dark. Do you realize how depressing that is? Also, didn't you plan to use our joint savings for it, but couldn't because it's in my name? So you had to borrow from your parents? It seemed that I was right. Ronald's face turned bright red, and he was speechless. We had a dual income arrangement. Living expenses went into an account in Ronald's name, while savings went into an account in my name. The primary purpose of those savings was for when we had a child. It seemed like when I got cancer, Ronald thought,
we can't have kids anyway. Might as well use that money for whatever I want.
I was heartbroken by the situation.
Can't you see how much I've cherished Bella? How can you even talk about divorce? This is unfair.
I looked at my sobbing husband with cold eyes. That's when Amelia, who was sitting next to me, chimed in. Someone who really cares wouldn't say such awful things. It's no big deal if the house gets dusty when no one's there. Walt and I were right there when you made that ridiculous call to the hospital. We were so disappointed we could cry. Walt's face was flushed red, staring down at my husband. It was a relief to have reasonable people on my side. I finished my treatments, but that doesn't mean I won't relapse. Ronald, you don't even seem to care about my well-being, let alone my hair loss and frail body. All you care about is saving your own skin. That's why this isn't working. I've supported you, Ronald, but who's going to support me? My husband lowered his gaze and said nothing more. After that, we finalized our divorce. Thanks to Walt and Amelia's intervention, Ronald wasn't pleased, but the division of assets went largely in my favor. Reluctantly, Ronald repaid the money he had borrowed from Walt and Amelia. I was shocked to learn it was a whopping $10,000. Turns out Ronald couldn't afford to keep the apartment we'd been so particular about, and he had to move out. The floors were scratched from dragging furniture, and there were even holes in the walls. Even worse, it turned out he had replaced the wallpaper without permission. He insisted these damages were there when we moved in, but backed down when the management company produced move-in photos. By the way, I was the one who provided those photos. So it looks like Ronald incurred some repair costs when he moved out. It wasn't a huge sum, but he couldn't even pay that. He asked Walt and Amelia for help, but they disowned him and kicked him out. Amelia later told me. He's in a cheap apartment now, struggling with debt. I still think he should have just made do with what he had, instead of living beyond his means. I heard from a friend who works at the same company as my ex-husband that he's now viewed as the creep who tormented his sick wife, especially among the female staff. He brought it upon himself. He'll regret it for the rest of his life. As for me, I'm savoring living alone again after years, all while keeping a close eye on my health. I plan to return to work once I feel more stable physically. My boss has been understanding, telling me to take it at my own pace. I'm so grateful. I still catch up with Walt and Amelia from time to time. It's really great, that Mom's dresser came back to you. Amelia says during one of our phone chats. I nodded in agreement. When I moved, I took some stuff I didn't need anymore to a thrift shop. While the items were being appraised, I froze. Wait a minute. There it was. My dresser that my mom had given me. Whether someone found it in the dump and brought it in didn't matter to me. It may not be a pricey piece, but there's no dresser that could replace it for me. A few days later, the dresser, now cleaned up a bit, arrived at my new place. Etched in small letters on the back corner of the dresser were the words, Bella, never give up, penned by my late mother. Life has its ups and downs, but remembering Mom's words has kept me pushing through. And that's not going to change. I'm all set to live my new life with strength and joy, without backing down.
Do you swear to obey your husband in all things? If not, do you swear to divorce him?" The voice of the mother-in-law-to-be echoed audibly in the holy ceremony. Looking at my soon-to-be husband, who was dressed in formal attire and waiting for my response with a shy expression, I felt a sense of despair about this marriage. My name is Emily. I lost my mom when I was young, and it's been just me and Dad ever since. Despite his busy work schedule, Dad did everything he could to make sure I wasn't lonely. During long vacations, he'd take me to various places to make memories. Whenever I'd start crying, missing Mom, he'd console me, tears in his own eyes. He is a kind dad. Dad was not good at cooking, and especially right after Mom passed, he'd often mess up meals and apologize to me. Wanting to support him, I started practicing cooking. At first, Dad watched me nervously as I handled fire, but it seems like my late mom's chef genes ran strongly in me, and I soon got good at it. Seeing my culinary skills, Dad happily handed the kitchen duties over to me. I started cooking for a likely exhausted Dad, which led me to develop an interest in baking. Now, as an adult, I work as a pastry chef. The job demands early mornings and late nights, but it's fulfilling. I met Raymond through my work. He's a delivery guy who brings supplies to my shop. At first, I didn't think much of him, but one day he secretly slipped me his contact info. His bashful yet hopeful expression when he did that made my heart skip a beat. As we started communicating, we went out to various places. Raymond, sweating profusely, nervously proposed, "Will you marry me?" We became engaged. Raymond is indecisive. Even when buying a single piece of clothing, he'd say, "I can't decide which one's better," furrowing his brows. I actually like that about him. Some friends thought it was pitiable when hearing stories about Raymond, but to me, his constant disheveled state was endearing. However, after meeting Raymond's mother, I started to feel uneasy. Raymond was raised by a single parent. His folks divorced when he was young. He described his mom as a kind woman, but when we visited before the marriage, I didn't get that impression at all. "So, you are the beauty Raymond's bringing home?" Well, it would be rude to say more." The first words from her were an insult. Raymond, probably tense at the meeting of his mother and girlfriend, didn't defend me. I didn't expect much from him, but the sudden insult from the mother-in-law-to-be was a bit of a shock. When she found out I was a pastry chef, she looked disgusted. Apparently, she'd seen a TV show featuring the busy life of a pastry chef. "Can you take care of kids when they arrive, considering your job? Even taking care of Raymond is questionable. You'll be his wife. You'll have to dedicate yourself to him. Naturally, you'll quit your job once you're married, right? Raymond lives alone and can handle household chores just fine. He keeps his place neat for a guy, so I don't need to quit my job just to take care of him. When we have kids, I plan on taking maternity leave and parental leave, but I'm not giving up my career as a pastry chef." When I told this to my future mother-in-law, she turned bright red. "You can't do that. You should quit your job and become a full-time housewife. The role of a wife is to maintain the home. Times have changed. If we have kids, I want them to see a mother who's passionate about her career." "My word!" My rebuttal ignited her rage, and we were practically at each other's throats. Raymond was visibly stressed out in between us, and in the end, when I left his family home, he offered to walk me out. We were silent on the way to the station. I like Raymond, but I had no confidence that I could get along with that mother-in-law. I was starting to think this marriage wouldn't work. Then Raymond spoke in a subdued voice. "I'm sorry, my mom's a single mom and she's always been on edge, just trying to protect me. She's stubborn but kind. I'll make sure to tell her about your good qualities." I had been about to say that the marriage was off, but his words silenced me. I remember how hard my own dad had worked as a single parent, and thought maybe she was acting that way because she truly cares for Raymond. "Don't worry about it. I'm sorry for fighting with your mom. Next time we meet, I'll try to get along with her." Raymond nodded happily at my words, and we said our goodbyes. We had planned to meet each other's parents on our next date. Raymond said he was nervous, but having met his mom once, I felt prepared. I doubted anything worse could happen when meeting parents. I patted Raymond's shoulder to encourage him, and we waved goodbye. On the train home, I pondered whether I could get ever along with his mom. Raymond had spoken up for me, so I believed he would defend me next time too. However, that next chance didn't come until our wedding day. Even when we wanted to meet our parents, his mom kept saying she was too busy. My dad was concerned, but what could we do? Even on our wedding day, his mom didn't attend. Raymond kept apologizing. "I'm sorry, my mom's been really busy lately," and even bowed to my dad. I wasn't bothered by her absence since we didn't get along to begin with. I told Raymond I didn't want much to do with her even after the marriage. Raymond said, "If we can keep our wedding vows, then that's fine by me." Little did I know, this would be the beginning of a surprise on our wedding day. On the day of the wedding, Dad was crying when he saw me in my wedding dress. I couldn't help but laugh at the sight of Dad tearing up even before walking me down the aisle. "You better be happy, you hear me?" Through his tears, Dad said this, and I smiled and nodded. Raymond, who had been told to take care of Emily, was also grinning shyly. That's where my sense of bliss ended. I was standing with Dad in front of the chapel doors, nerves running high. Music began to play, and the double doors swung open. Before me lay the aisle, and at the end of it stood Raymond and, oddly enough, his mother. With arms linked, they both grinned, waiting for Dad and me to walk down the aisle. Dad whispered, "Who's that?" in a confused voice, to which I frantically replied, "That's Raymond's mom." The event staff seemed flustered too, but Dad and I began our walk down the aisle. Raymond was supposed to meet me halfway, but instead he stood with his mother at the altar. So Dad and I just stood there, dumbfounded in the middle of the aisle. "Before everyone makes their vows, Emily must first vow to me," Mother-in-law announced, unfolding a piece of paper she had in her hand. Glancing at Raymond to see if this was some surprise, he was just smiling at his mother. "Will you vow to obey your husband unconditionally? If you can't, you must vow to divorce." The room stirred at mother-in-law's proclamation. Even the pastor and the staff seemed taken aback, and some were trying to stop her, but mother-in-law didn't care. That's when it hit me, something Raymond had said before. When I told him that it would be difficult to get along with his non-attending mother in the future, he had said, "If you can keep your vows at the wedding, that's fine by me." I had thought it was unusually romantic for Raymond, but that wasn't the case. He meant that it was fine if I could keep a vow to mother-in-law during the wedding. What will it be? Will you vow? Mother-in-law was grinning down at me, and inside I thought, no, I can't. I can't be related to someone like this, and I certainly can't obey Raymond unconditionally. Next to me, Dad softly muttered, "Should we go?" To which I nodded and said, "Yes." As I started walking back down the aisle, my soon-to-be mother-in-law yelled, "Where are you going?" I turned around and made myself clear. I can't go through with this. I can't become family with people who act so ridiculously. Fuming, my mother-in-law yelled back. Raymond stood there dumbfounded, while Dad and I retreated to the waiting room. The staff was scrambling. I apologized to them over and over as I changed out my wedding dress into casual clothes. I heard that Raymond and his mother were in another room talking to the staff, so I went to the reception area, apologized to the guests who had come, and said I'd be returning their gifts before leaving the venue. It was a heartbreaking ending, and I apologized repeatedly to Dad. He comforted me, saying, "It's better to know what kind of man he is before marrying him." I couldn't help but cry, like a child, at my father's words. I didn't get to check my phone until the next day. I had received a slew of encouraging messages from friends who had been guests, along with multiple calls from Raymond. When I called him back, his mother picked up the phone, furious for some reason, yelling, "You're late in calling!" "Why are you answering? I wanted to speak with Raymond." "Raymond is inconsolable because you ruined the wedding. We were preparing a wonderful surprise, and now you will pay damages. Be prepared." Turns out, Raymond was apparently fired from his job. He had been working for a small delivery company. The owner was outraged by his outrageous behavior at the wedding and had declared him fired. Raymond was also being criticized by both my friends and his, sinking into depression. His mother blamed it all on me, saying I had ruined the wedding. I was more astonished than angry. It was the first time I had felt such a deep, cold rage. I waited for her to catch her breath and started talking. "I'll be the one asking for a compensation. You ruined my wedding. Cover all the expenses for the venue. And needless to say, I won't be marrying Raymond. Please convey that to him." "You can't be serious. You expect him to pay while he's this upset? You are unbelievable." "The only one who's unbelievable here is you, don't you think? From what I've heard, your divorce happened for a rather selfish reason, too." "What?" "You cheated on your spouse, tried to marry your affair partner, who then ditched you, and you only want custody of Raymond because you're his mother." Raymond and I had met his father on a date after we had said hello to mother-in-law. His father, who had continued to pay child support until Raymond was an adult, revealed the reason for the divorce while drunk. "Be careful, she's a selfish person. Raymond, make sure you protect Emily," his father had told us. But those words never resonated with Raymond. "You think saying sorry will fix this? We're not getting married anymore, and you're paying for the venue and the damages. What made you think I'd be happy with that kind of surprise?" At this point, I was seriously concerned that mother-in-law was going to burst a blood vessel. Just then, Raymond's voice came on, taking over the call. "I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry, Emily," Raymond pleaded in a desperate tone. "You think saying sorry makes it okay? Forget the wedding, but you're paying for the cancellation and venue fees. What made you think I'd be pleased with a surprise like that?" I was on the fence, but my mom said it was a test for the woman who's going to be my wife. Typical Raymond can't make a decision on his own. My fondness for his feeble yet endearing traits was gone. I was furious with Raymond for not considering my feelings, for not having an opinion on his own. I don't want to hear your voice anymore. I'll consult a lawyer from now on. So, don't show your face to me ever again. I hung up on Raymond, who was still apologizing, and immediately consulted a lawyer that my dad knows. The lawyer was furious when he found out how badly I'd been betrayed. "Let's go all out," he said, and I found that reassuring. As I demanded, Raymond agreed to pay for the damages and the venue costs. The lawyer also filed a claim against Raymond's mom. Raymond and his mom struggled to find a lawyer on their side, and it looked like they had to accept all our demands. I received compensation from both Raymond and his mom and moved out with my dad. It was the lawyer's advice to avoid any potential nuisance. After the move, Dad and I lived peacefully. Raymond couldn't contact me, as I'd blocked his number and SMS. I thought I'd never hear about Raymond and his mom again. However, a few years later, I ran into Raymond's dad at a shopping mall. As soon as he spotted me, he rushed over and sincerely apologized for his son's behavior. According to him, Raymond and his mom had been estranged since the settlement. Apparently, Raymond went on a rampage at his parents' house, blaming mother-in-law for ruining the wedding. Mother-in-law, for her part, argued that he had to pay the cancellation fees because Raymond brought someone like me into their lives. It turned into a full-blown, knockdown, drag-out fight, or so I heard. Both Raymond and mother-in-law got into such a heated argument that they needed stitches. They were so strapped for cash that they had to beg father-in-law for financial help. Unsurprisingly, father-in-law had no intention of bailing them out financially. Neither expected any financial aid from Raymond's dad, and they both lived hating each other. "I hope you find happiness, Emily," he said. Feeling a bit shy, I touched my flat belly. "I intend to." A guy friend from the cancelled wedding with Raymond had been incredibly supportive. We'd been friends since college, and he'd confessed that he'd liked me all along. Now, we're married. We didn't hold a ceremony as I'd had enough of weddings, but we did have wedding photos taken. Now, I'm pregnant. Raymond's dad genuinely wished for my happiness. When I report this to my husband, he assured me, "Don't worry, I'll take both you and our baby happy." Despite a terrible wedding experience, I found a new life of happiness, and I intend to protect this happiness.
Mom is unconscious! The phone call from my brother during work was shocking. Our mother, who lives alone, resides near my brother's place. Being a worrier, my brother checks on her whenever he has time. Today, after finishing work, he stopped by our childhood home. He had called her before heading over, and she said she would prepare food for him. Yet, there was no response at the intercom, so he thought something was wrong and unlocked the door. He found our mother collapsed in the kitchen and quickly called an ambulance. My name is Susan. I'm 32 years old and work as a staff at an electronics store. Our father passed away from an illness about 5 years ago, leaving our mother living alone in our childhood home. I have been living alone because I often work overtime, and it's more convenient to be close to work. It's only about a 10-minute train ride to our childhood home, so I visit about once a month. Just recently, I saw our mother in good health at home. Despite that, I rushed to the hospital after hearing she had suddenly been taken there by ambulance. At the hospital, I met up with my brother, and when we entered our mother's room, the doctor soon came in and told us she had passed away. The cause was a heart attack. I was stunned, unable to accept the reality, but I couldn't dwell on my sadness. Unlike our father's illness-related death, I had never even considered the sudden loss of our mother, so there were many things to do for the funeral. By the time we finished the funeral, both my brother and I were exhausted. After that, we decided to split up and handle various procedures. First, we went to our childhood home to sort through our mother's belongings. As my brother and I were heading there, I spotted a cell phone store. Come to think of it, we need to cancel Mom's cell phone plan, right? I'll ask what we need to do. I could have called and asked later, but since it was on our way back, we decided to stop by. The cell phone store was busy when we arrived. On second thought, it was peak season. The store had a big promotion for student discounts, and none of the staff paid any attention to us. Did they think we had no business there because we weren't students? Slightly annoyed, my brother and I entered the store. I was approached by a staff who looked like an information staff, so I said, "I'd like to ask you about cancellation." The female staff made a blatantly disgusted face. "You want to cancel? Please wait a moment." She seemed a bit younger than me, but her attitude was quite rude. I just wanted to ask about the required documents, but she was busy, so it couldn't be helped. My brother and I waited, and I noticed the same female staff member treating a parent and student with a bow and a smile. Sure, cancellations might not generate revenue, but we were longtime customers, so at least they could treat us fairly. My brother remarked that it was busy and started looking up information about bank cancellations on his smartphone. The other staff members were also busy, and the guide blatantly ignored us. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to speak to the female staff member again. "My mother passed away, so we want to cancel her plan. If you could just tell us the required documents, we'll gather them and come back. How soon can you help us with that?" Though I was upset, I'm a working adult too. I tried to convey my message as politely and concisely as possible. Then the female staff said, "The person themselves should come for the cancellation. Just bring a driver's license." I wanted to say, "Were you even listening?" But I held back. "So my mother has passed away, and we want to cancel on her behalf." As I said that, the female staff furrowed her brow. "As I said, we can't cancel it without the person themselves." Frustrated, I snapped, "I told you, she's deceased." Then the female staff laughed and said, "Well then, bring her bones." She made a shooing gesture. There was no point in staying here any longer. Let's just go home for now. My brother seemed upset as well. I glared at her and left the store with my brother. I thought about talking back, but we were near our family home, and I didn't want to cause a scene in front of the neighbors, so I held back for now. A few days later, we went to the cell phone shop again. We didn't want to be charged for another month, so we wanted to cancel as soon as possible. Since I work at an electronics store, I asked a colleague in the mobile department to look into it and gather the necessary documents. Our electronics store couldn't handle the cancellation process, but if we take a death certificate to the shop, they would accept it. I sometimes see customers complaining about not being able to cancel at our store, and I finally understood how they felt. I never thought about the differences between mobile shops before. We were still in the process of cleaning up our family home, so I met up with my brother there, and we headed straight to the cell phone shop. We considered going to another shop, but it wasn't our fault, so why should we have to accommodate them? Plus, other shops were far away. We entered the shop, hoping that the female staff from before wouldn't be there. However, she was the one greeting customers again. She seemed to have forgotten about us, so when I said, "We were here before, and our mother passed away, so we came to cancel her cell phone," the female staff looked shocked as she looked at my face. "I brought the necessary documents, so please proceed." As I said that, she put her hand on the earpiece she was wearing. By the way, the earpiece is a type of small radio, which I also wear at work. She reluctantly led us to a table. She probably received instructions from her supervisor to do so. I wanted someone else to handle it, but we just wanted to get this over with and leave. As soon as I thought that, she sat down with a mocking smile. "I told you last time, right? We can't cancel without the person themselves. So where's your mother? Is she just invisible to me or something?" What's with that attitude? Just before I snapped, my brother held me back. I didn't understand why, but my brother calmly said, "We brought the person themselves," and placed a bag on the table. The female staff looked into the bag with a mocking expression. My brother silently opened the bag. Inside was the female staff didn't seem to know what it was, so she leaned in with a puzzled expression. My brother opened the lid and said, "These are her bones." The next moment, the female staff member said, "Phew!" and fell from the high chair she was sitting on. An incredibly loud noise occurred, and another male staff rushed over. The male staff seemed flustered, but the female staff's face turned pale, and she didn't speak. I said to the female staff, "Could you stop making that face as if you've seen a ghost? Is this your first time seeing cremated remains? But you're the one who told me to bring them, right?" Then the male staff began to bow his head. Apparently, he was the store manager. When I told the manager what I had been told earlier, he bowed his head again. As I spoke to the manager, the store became crowded. I told the manager, "Please go and attend to other customers. It's just a contract cancellation, and it will be over quickly if this person takes care of it." Although the manager seemed confused, he was called on his walkie-talkie and, in a strict tone, told the female staff to do her job properly before going to attend to other customers. I placed my mother's cell phone next to the opened, "So, I want to cancel this." When I said that, the female staff hurriedly said, "Please put the remains away quickly." But my brother spoke nonchalantly. "It's okay, I'm not doing anything bad. Besides, you're the one who told me to bring the remains. My mother will watch over us too." I couldn't help but laugh at his words. The female staff glared at me and said, "Show me your driver's license." "Whose? Mine? My mother's?" I placed both my mother's and my driver's licenses on the table. I also lined up the death certificate and the credit card my mother used for automatic withdrawal. The female staff took all of them without saying a word and left the table. I stopped her. "Wait, don't just take them without asking. What are you using them for? You told me to show my driver's license, but you didn't tell me the purpose." "Oh, it's to confirm customer information." The female staff muttered and didn't come back, so I said, "Aren't you supposed to do that in front of us? That's what everyone else does, right? Isn't that a compliance violation?" Compliance means abiding by laws and regulations. Simply put, it's showing customers that our company follows laws and social rules. I deal with customers' personal information in my job, so I'm constantly being nagged about compliance. It's even more strict in a cell phone shop that handles a lot of personal information, but this female staff showed no sense of urgency. I was also irritated by that. But she flinched when she heard the word compliance. The saleswoman hastily brought back the personal information she took, and brought a terminal where I can view the contract information instead. By the way, my brother, being aware of the surroundings, quickly puts away the and gives the female staff a cold look. The female staff seems to be concerned about the customers entering the store while dealing with us, and the conversation is not progressing smoothly. Then she says, "There will be an annual contract cancellation fee, which will be billed next month." However, I had checked with the person in charge of cell phones at my workplace that it would be waived. So I asked, "I heard that it would be waived if the contract holder passed away. Is that true?" Upon hearing this, she starts to look into it in a hurry. I sigh and take out my smartphone. I open the inquiry page on the cell phone company's website and show the official answer to the female staff. The female staff looks up and says, "Then it won't be charged, I guess," which irritated me. "Excuse me, what's with that attitude?" I couldn't help but say that, and she glared at me, but I continued. "I have no reason to be glared at for your lack of knowledge, and I've noticed you've been looking at other customers since earlier. Isn't that rude?" I heard this from the person in charge of cell phones at my workplace as well, that staff sales performance only counts when they acquire new customers. That doesn't mean they should have such an attitude towards other customers. I try to stay as calm as possible and continue. "You may think of me as a complainer, but I'm not. All you need to do is to handle this cancellation process quickly and accurately. I've been thinking this for a while, but your attitude is just terrible. I just wanted to cancel the contract, but since I couldn't finish and go home, I was irritated and ended up speaking in a strong tone. When I calmed down, I feel a little guilty. But then, I was completely astonished by the female staff's next attitude. You're a complainer, aren't you? It's not normal to bring ashes. You said you brought the person themselves, but what can you do with those ashes? She said that with a laugh. My brother, who had been sitting quietly until now, seemed to be getting angry and tried to stand up. The next moment, a loud voice echoed throughout the store. Bring me the guy who deceived me right now! It was a man in his late 20s who looked a bit rough. As soon as he entered the store, he started yelling at the receptionist. He looked around and didn't listen to the receptionist trying to stop him and headed our way. Could it be? As I thought, the man came close to our table and glared at the female staff, asking, How much longer will it take for you to finish with these customers? She turned pale and didn't say a word. I was a little curious, so I said, We just want to cancel our contract, but it's not progressing very well. However, if it's just a conversation, please go ahead. To my surprise, the man looked apologetic and declined my offer. But for some reason, my brother picked up his belongings and moved to the waiting sofa just behind us. When I looked at my brother's face, he seemed to be enjoying himself. I followed my brother's lead and caught the eye of a male customer. He nodded slightly and stood in front of a female staff. Just as I wondered what was about to happen, the male customer began speaking harshly to the saleswoman. The other salespeople were busy with customers, and the greeters seemed to be new and flustered, so nobody stepped in to stop the man. From what I could hear, he had signed a new contract a week ago and was angry because the content of the contract was different from what he had discussed, and he had been given many options without his consent. I had heard that such misunderstandings were common at our store's cell phone department, so at first I thought the male customer might be mistaken. But then the saleswoman said something outrageous. That kind of minimum fee doesn't help my performance. Since you signed the contract, can you stop complaining? I then remembered something. At our store, we have seen similar complaints, but to prepare for such trouble, we properly write down the contract details and hand them to the customers. Even if there's a complaint, that serves as evidence, and after explaining to the customer again, they usually calm down and accept that they misunderstood. But I don't know if it's just this store or this saleswoman, but there seem to be no such measures in place, and it seems that the saleswoman ignored the customer's wishes and acted on her own. Of course, he had every right to be angry. I was already surprised enough, but then the saleswoman suddenly got up as if remembering something. As we were taken aback, she quickly returned. She had a driver's license in her hand. I forgot to return this the other day. I'll give this back to you, so please just leave. It appeared to be the male customer's driver's license. The man was furious again at her unapologetic attitude. I was searching everywhere for it, thinking I had lost it somewhere. You should have contacted me when you realized. What's wrong with you? Is this staff insane? The store manager, who had just finished seeing off other customers, rushed over. He apologized profusely, but of course, it was not a problem that could be forgiven with an apology. The manager took the saleswoman to the back for a moment. Then, the male customer apologized to me, and as we engaged in a light conversation, he said, You seem to know a lot. Are you a cell phone person? I told him that I was a salesperson at an electronics store, and the male customer seemed satisfied with that answer. At first, I thought he looked tough and scary, but after talking to him, he was surprisingly normal and even apologized for surprising me earlier. My brother, hearing this, said to the man, No, I'm sorry my sister scared you, to which I glared at my brother, and the male customer burst out laughing. After a while, only the manager returned and apologized again. He told the male customer that they would like to verify the facts and take appropriate action after contacting him later. The male customer sighed, nodded to us, and left. We asked the manager to process our cancellation, and it was done in just a few minutes. What was all that time for? We also sighed and left the store. Later, we received a customer service survey from the cell phone company, so we gave the lowest rating and wrote everything that happened in the free comment section. I thought it was a small act of revenge, but when I later talked to the person in charge of mobile phones, they told me that it was uncommon to receive such a low rating, and the staff would probably get a serious reprimand. Knowing that, my mood brightened a bit. About 2 weeks later, while I was working, I was approached for product information, and to my surprise, it was the male customer from that day. He recognized me too, and told me what happened afterward. The manager had contacted him, and the female staff had been let go, and he was offered a refund and a few months of free basic charges. It seemed like compensation for the inconvenience. Since then, that man would occasionally visit the store, and we would chat whenever we met. After some time, he told me that he saw the female staff in front of the mobile phone shop. She was apparently begging the manager outside the store, saying she couldn't make a living without a job, that she had been kicked out of her apartment, and pleading to be hired again. But the manager firmly rejected her. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard this. Later on, I happened to run into him near my parents' house, and we exchanged greetings. We laughed about the strange connection and exchanged contact information. Then, to my surprise, he asked me out, and I accepted. Thanks to that, both my work and private life have become fulfilling.
Hey, Julia, can we talk? What's up, mother-in-law? Well, it's not easy for me to say this, but I'm not exactly living a lavish life myself. Okay. So I can't financially help you out anymore. Wait, help out? You're aware I'm living on a fixed income, right? I can't continue to assist you. Hold on, mother-in-law. What are you talking about? Huh? My name is Julia, a 27-year-old working woman. I met my husband Kevin through a mutual friend, and we got married after a year and a half of dating. Kevin can get a bit carried away sometimes, but he's a fun-loving and kind person. The reason I wanted to marry him was that he values family very much. I want to take care of my mom, you know. She's getting on in years, and I want to repay her for everything. Before we got married, Kevin often talked like this, making me see him as a wonderful, family-oriented person. When we got engaged, we visited Kevin's family home, and mother-in-law welcomed me warmly. I felt relieved seeing that she was exactly as Kevin had described. I am so thrilled you're becoming Kevin's wife, Julia. He's lucky to have such a wonderful woman. Mother-in-law has always been kind to me, even after we got married. If you're busy with work and can't manage the household, feel free to ask for help. Thank you, mother-in-law. In-laws are a common issue for many, but between us, there's no tension or harassment. In fact, we have a very good relationship, like a real mother and daughter. However, after some time being married, something began to bother me. Not about mother-in-law, but about Kevin. Man, I am beat. Let's go over to Mom's place today and get some dinner, huh? What are you talking about? Today is Kevin's day to cook dinner, right? In our house, both of us working, we take turns cooking dinner. On Kevin's cooking day, this is what he said as soon as he got home. So I said I'm tired from work, right? Let's just eat at my mom's place. Now? Isn't it a bit last minute? Won't it be a hassle? It's fine. Mom would love having us there. It makes things more lively. Kevin's mom, or mother-in-law as we call her, lives alone in a big house since my father-in-law passed away before we got married. Sure, having meals alone in that big house must feel a bit lonely. but isn't it pretty rude to just show up and expect to be fed? While it's one thing for Kevin to drop by whenever he wants, I feel uncomfortable imposing. Besides, even mother-in-law might find it inconvenient if we just show up for dinner. Is Kevin under the impression that meals at home work like a diner? Hey, let's call ahead just to be sure. Why? I don't need to call my own house. Kevin, it may be your home, but I still feel like we should be polite. We're adults after all. Even with family, there's a way to do things. Since I insisted, Kevin reluctantly called his home. She said it's fine. Really? She didn't say we're imposing? No, she didn't. Mom said, come on over. You worry too much, Julia. Kevin said this with such confidence that I decided to just go along with it for today. At the house, mother-in-law welcomed us with her usual warm smile. Welcome. Dinner's ready. Let's eat. Mother-in-law, isn't this a lot of food? Must have been hard to prepare all this. I got so happy to hear you're joining us for dinner. I might have overdone it. I'm sorry for dropping in unannounced, but this looks delicious. Let's eat. There's plenty, so make sure you eat a lot. See? Told you it would be fine. Mom's cooking is the best, right? Dig in, Julia. Saying this, Kevin casually opened a beer from the fridge. That's rich coming from you, I thought as I enjoyed mother-in-law's cooking. So, does it suit your taste? Mother-in-law, everything is delicious. I'd love to make this at home. Would you teach me? Oh, how wonderful to hear. Let's cook together next time. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. In reality, mother-in-law's cooking was absolutely delicious and full of homey warmth. Thanks to her generous hospitality, our spontaneous dinner turned out to be quite enjoyable. A few days after our last visit, my husband suggested eating at his mom's place again. We just went the other day. We shouldn't impose so often. It's fine. I called ahead this time. You did? Yeah, I told her we'd be coming over today. What? Today's your turn to make dinner, isn't it? Are you planning to skip your duty? No, I'm not slacking off. If we go to my mom's, there'll be food ready. That counts, right? You're just pawning off the work on her. That's not fair to her. I was unsettled by my husband's selfish reasoning. But since my mother-in-law had already prepared a meal, we couldn't let it go to waste. Feeling guilty, I went with him to visit his family home. Sorry for dropping by so frequently, Mom. Don't worry, I'm happy to help out when you're in a pinch. The thing is, we weren't really in a pinch. If anyone was, it was my husband. He probably found cooking a hassle and relied on his mom to bail him out. I couldn't say anything, feeling guilty towards my mother-in-law. After that, my husband got used to dodging his cooking duties. Most of the nights he was supposed to cook, we ended up at his mom's. She always welcomed us with delicious food. By the third visit, I felt we needed to make a change. It's great that we go to your mom's, but it's not fair to keep letting her treat us. We should at least say thank you properly. How? Let's at least cover the cost of ingredients. She enjoys doing it. Why would she need money? Still, it adds up. It's the least we can do. We're eating less at home, so why not give her something? She might not accept it from me. Could you hand it to her? I thought my mother-in-law might refuse to accept money for groceries from me. However, I believed that she would accept it from her son, so I decided to ask my husband instead. Thanks for considering, Mom. I'll make sure to give it to her. By contributing towards the ingredients, I felt relieved that we were at least easing some of mother-in-law's burden. Continuing from the previous scenario, the husband nonchalantly insisted that they eat meals at his parents' house on his assigned days. For about half a year, we had meals at my husband's family home around 3 times a week. Since we were giving them money, I thought maybe I was taking advantage of my mother-in-law. Then, one day, I was hit with an unexpected truth. Ah, another delicious meal. My husband was lying down and watching TV after having dinner at his parents' house. My mother-in-law and I were cleaning up after the meal. Usually we'd chat cheerfully as we tidied up, but today, mother-in-law looked serious. Wondering what was wrong, she started to talk. Julia, can I talk to you? What is it, mother-in-law? I hate to bring this up, but I'm not living a lavish life either. Okay. So I can't continue to support you guys. Support? What are you talking about? You know, we're living on a pension, right? We can't afford to help you anymore. Wait a minute, mother-in-law. What are you talking about? Huh? You come over for meals and we're giving you money because you said times are tough, right? We don't have much from our pension. It's a struggle. I didn't know anything about that. What? We've been giving you money too, for the meals. We thought it would at least cover the groceries, and we gave the money to Kevin. Groceries? I never received anything from Kevin. What? As we continued to talk, it became clear that there was a major misunderstanding. I realized it must be the doing of one person. Angrily, I confronted my husband, who was carelessly lounging in the living room. Kevin, what's the meaning of this? Huh? What's up? I grabbed the collar of my slightly intoxicated, grinning husband. What's going on? Answer me! What? Why are you yelling? What's the problem? That's what I'm asking you. What's this support mother-in-law's talking about? Huh? What do you mean? And where's the money we gave you for meals? Mother-in-law says she knows nothing about it. Well, you see... Suspicious. Very suspicious. Unable to explain where the money had gone, my husband started to stammer, his eyes darting around. My husband, whose collar I had just grabbed and shaken, resettled himself with a pale face. So, what's going on? What are you talking about? Really? You're still playing dumb? Even my usually gentle mom was infuriated by Kevin's vague demeanor. You came to us saying you're in trouble. We fed you and even gave you money. Mom, please, let's keep calm. It's Kevin making me angry, isn't it? We were enjoying Mom's delicious cooking, and the mood was great. Let's just drop it. Where did the money go? Answer me! Well, that's a bit complicated. My husband mumbled and fell silent. So you really won't tell me where the money went? Fine, wait here. I told my husband that and stepped away for a while. Then I called brother-in-law and told him the situation. Brother-in-law, 7 years my senior, had been supporting my husband's family financially for a long time, filling in for our frequently hospitalized father-in-law. Kevin had even had some of his college tuition covered by brother-in-law's earnings, so he couldn't talk back to him. Brother-in-law cared deeply for his much younger brother Kevin, and me as family. I've called brother-in-law. He's on his way.
What? Why did you call him?
Why? Because you won't give me a straight answer, Kevin. What's so bad about him coming?
No, well,
Knowing I had called brother-in-law, my husband seemed quite unsettled. Soon after brother-in-law, who lives nearby, arrived.
Kevin, what did you do with the money from Julia and Mom? Speak up! Oh, well, I didn't use it for anything major. What was it again? I see.
Brother-in-law, sensing that getting a straight answer from Kevin was going nowhere, said,
Julia, this might take a while. I'll get to the bottom of this. You should head home for now. Julia, I'll go home with you. Nope, you're staying right here. Don't you think you'll get any sleep tonight? You're off work tomorrow anyway. Let's have a long talk.
Thank you, brother-in-law. I appreciate it.
Julia, help me!
Ignoring my husband's soft plea, I went back home. Though I returned to my own house, I was so worried that I could hardly sleep that night. So, the family was summoned again to my husband's parents' home the next afternoon. Hello, I apologize for the inconvenience last night. No worries. Sorry for calling you back here again. As my heart pounded, I entered the room to find that even my brother-in-law's wife was present. Why would the whole family gather like this? What on earth did Kevin do? As soon as I took my seat, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law began to apologize profusely.
Julia, I am so sorry. My brother did something terrible.
What's going on? Even you, mother-in-law? Kevin, what happened?
Kevin, tell Julia the truth right now.
My husband was sitting formally, looking even paler than yesterday. Head bowed, he began to speak in an almost inaudible voice.
Well, I messed up.
What did you do?
I've been unfaithful.
What? Cheating? You mean like having an affair?
Yes.
Since when?
About 6 months ago.
And? What did you do with our money? Don't stay silent. Where did the money go?
I used it for dates with other women.
Hold on. That's a lot of money. How many fancy restaurants did you guys go to?
I also bought her designer bags.
What? You always dismissed my desires for one as trivial, and you bought her a bag? Turns out, my husband had been having an affair for the past 6 months and had used up the money given to him by both mother-in-law and me.
I'm really sorry. I'll break it off and never cheat again.
Hold on. You don't have to break up on my account.
What?
I am divorcing Kevin. How can I go on with someone who can't handle money or fidelity?
You can't be serious. It was just a lapse in judgment.
Sorry, but that excuse doesn't fly. Before I could say another word, mother-in-law and brother-in-law laid into him.
Enough is enough. Stop being so selfish. Do you realize you were cheating using money that your mother and Julia scrimped and saved? What do you mean, a lapse?
Giving designer bags to your affair partner? You should have been doing that for Julia, who's always working hard. You're the worst. If Julia wants to break up, you don't really have the right to refuse, do you? That's right. Make sure to pay back the money you both spent and also provide the deposit required for the divorce court. What? If we divorce, Julia will no longer be family. Are you all okay with that?
If the choice is being manipulated by Kevin forever, isn't it easier just to split?
At this point, my sister-in-law, who had been silent, finally spoke up, and it seemed my husband had given up. Then, my sister-in-law took out the divorce papers she had prepared just in case. Filling out the divorce papers while being watched by my husband's family felt awkward, but I signed them right away. My husband hesitated, but under a stern look from his brother, he reluctantly signed as well. And just like that, our divorce was finalized. Through a lawyer my brother-in-law introduced me to, I requested the divorce court deposit from my ex-husband and his affair partner. I also decided to reclaim all the money that was supposed to be for my mother-in-law. Shockingly, it turned out that my ex-husband's affair partner was actually engaged. When her partner found out about the affair, the engagement was called off. Everything they had prepared for their marriage became a waste, and now both my ex-husband and his affair partner are being sued for damages by the ex-fiancé. My ex-husband, who is now burdened with a significant amount of debt for the divorce court deposit, was forcibly sent back to his parents' home. His salary is being managed by my responsible sister-in-law to ensure the repayment of the divorce court deposit. Currently, he only gets a paltry $10 for lunch and shuttles between his home and workplace. He seems to be grumbling about his miserable life, but he brought this upon himself. Having an affair with someone else's money is despicable. There's no other way to put it. He spent all that money on his affair partners, but it wasn't his money to begin with. So complaining about it is pointless. As for me, I've moved to a new apartment and am enjoying a stress-free life. I always loved my ex-husband's family, so we're still on good terms. I secretly go out to eat with my former mother-in-law and brother-in-law and his wife, maintaining our relationship. I guess I should be thankful for the wonderful connections I've made, leaving the disappointing ex-husband aside.